Soyny wanted to make Crimson Desert a timed exclusive for the Piss Nickel, but developer Pearl Abyss said no. See, shift up, this is how you do it. I'm not going to say see Squeenix because Squeenix is still pretty dumb. They're still censoring their games. They're still going after fans. Like, they're just as bad as Nintendo when it comes to that, going after their own fans. In case you haven't heard, the Squeenix's lawyers shut down that Yoko Taro fan site right after Yoko Taro was thanking them for it and showing his appreciation for him. Squeenix decided, no, we can't have any goodwill with our fans. So yeah, Squeenix is pretty dumb. But one smart thing they've done is they pretty much announced they're done with PlayStation exclusivity. You remember that? Even Squeenix is like, yeah, in the future, we're going to launch PC day one. We've learned our lesson. So I think Shift Up is the only company I even remotely am curious about. We'll see how they do it. But Pearl Abyss, they're smart. They're like, no, Pearl Abyss understands if they release their game as a timed exclusive, no, by the time it launches everywhere else, all the interest will be dead. Yeah, the window of interest is short for games. Yes, now, the problem with a lot of these companies is that they're living in the distant past. They're living 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Back then, there were less games, way less games. Way less good games. Remember when we didn't have yearly releases? You guys remember that? Remember when you had to wait like 5-6 years? Sometimes the biggest, most well-known studios, despite as big as they were, like Blizzard back in the day, like Blizzard didn't release a game every year. Blizzard went years without releasing games sometimes. There was a time in the distant past when there weren't that many games around. Back then, you could do a timed exclusive of like a year or two. And then when the game came out to other platforms, there was still hype for it because in the 2 years in between its platform releases, maybe there was only like 1 or 2 other major releases in that time frame. So people were still interested. Like, that's not the case anymore. There are so many games being released now, so many good games at that. Now, I'm not talking about shovelware. There's always been a lot of shovelware. There have been so many good games. Like, there's so many of them just coming out on a monthly basis. Unless your game is the next Minecraft, the next Fortnite, people forget about it within like 2 or 3 months. Even Black Myth Wukong, for all the hype Black Myth Wukong got, no one's talking about it anymore. That's not an indication of the game being bad. It's just it was a single player game. People bought it, they played it, they're done with it, they moved on. The only time I hear Black Myth Wukong being discussed anymore is when people are talking about it being snubbed from award shows, as if anyone gives a fuck about these award shows anymore. Imagine if Black Myth Wukong was a PS5 exclusive and it didn't launch on PC until like 2 years later. I doubt it will be able to get more than a couple 100,000 sales on PC as well back then, or if they did that. Because all the hype around it would have been gone. It's not the same industry it was 30 years ago. This ain't your grandpappy's industry, boomers. Times are changing. And thankfully, some companies are starting to learn, like, yeah, unless you're a first-party studio that's outright owned by the platform, it's kind of fucking stupid to go exclusive. Whether it be timed or permanent, it doesn't matter. It's a really dumb idea. Although maybe you can make an exception. Like, say if Nintendo or Xbox or PlayStation, if they paid you, like if they're the publisher, if they fund the entire game and pay you to make the game for them, at that point you're basically work for hire. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah. But if it's one of your own games, if it's something you care about and you make it exclusive. Oh, and just to head this off, because I know someone's gonna say this. Like, but RGE, what about all those like especially indie games that are PC exclusive? Yeah, I only ever hear you complaining about console exclusives. Well, what about PC exclusives? Isn't that just as bad? It is, if you don't consider why they do that. You want to know why everyone releases on PC, but hardly anyone releases on consoles? It's because of the manufacturers. It's because of the platform owners. I can guarantee you, every single indie dev would love to have their game on Xbox, on PlayStation, on Nintendo. They would love to have their game on every platform. They would want to have it in front of as many people as possible. So why don't they? So if I want to release a game on PC, you know what I got to do? I make the game, I put it up for sale on my website, and that's it. Now, I can go through Steam, and it's actually pretty easy. Like, Steam is really easy to work with if I want to go through an official storefront. Or there's other storefronts. I could put it on DL site. There's a bunch of really easy to work with storefronts. So I could sell it myself. I could easily put it up on an existing storefront. There's almost no approval process. It's pretty much just like, oh, yeah, sure, just give us a 30% cut and you're good. I mean, I'm not saying there's none. There's obviously a little bit. They do have to check some things, but it is really easy to sell your game on PC. You know what you got to do on console? You got to go through months of meetings with the manufacturer. You got to get your game rated in every region that it's going to be sold in, which costs thousands of dollars in every region. You got to follow all of their rules and their censorship. They can outright deny you. It is way too expensive, and there's way too much bureaucracy to release games on console. That is why, look, there's companies whose entire purpose is to port games to consoles. You ever notice that when indie games do come to consoles, they are almost always published by like the same 3 or 4 companies? That's why. No indie has the time, money, or fucking patience to deal with the console manufacturers and all their fucking bullshit. If consoles at any point in time decide to open themselves up and tear down the walled garden and be more like PC, where anyone can make games and release them on there, dude, all of the games that are only on PC right now will be getting released on console. None of these indie devs want to be PC exclusive. They're only PC exclusive because the consoles are too much of a pain in the ass to deal with. If the console manufacturers stop being a pain in the ass to deal with, you're going to get a lot more PC, quote unquote, exclusive games on console. That's simple. So it looks like Pearl Abyss's long-awaited action-adventure Crimson Desert will release across all platforms as Korean publishers wants to maximize their profits. Good. And look, let's think of this hypothetical. Let's think, but RGE, well, what if Sony paid them a ridiculous amount of money for the exclusivity? Well, what if Sony paid them like double what they would have gotten from having 20 million sales across all the other platforms? All right. In that case, they lose audience. And really, I think I'm cautiously optimistic about Shift Up in this regard, because when you actually listen to how they talk about their Project Witches game, they said that they specifically mentioned that they realize that most of their customers are on PC and mobile. So their next game is going to release across all platforms because they actually want to release where their customers are. That might be them low-key dropping a hint that, yeah, maybe we made a mistake with Stellar Blade. We thought that that our like 100 million Nikkei players on mobile and PC would suddenly just get a piss nickel to play Stellar Blade. And no, that didn't happen. Yeah, I mean, maybe we should release our games where our audience actually is. Yeah, that is something that money can't make up. Look, especially if you want to have a series. Like if you want to make a trilogy of games, for example, but the first game is PS5 exclusive and the other two are multi-platform, like that alone is going to really hurt your sales quite a bit. So I'm glad these companies are finally starting to wise up. Korean developer and publisher Pearl Abyss have reportedly refused Sony's timed exclusivity deal for the highly anticipated action adventure RPG Crimson Desert. All right, so full disclosure, I never even heard of this game. Now, from what I've seen, actually, because I did kind of look into it after I saw this article, it actually does look pretty cool. I'm gonna put it on my wish list and wait and see what happens with it. But God, this is just an indication of how saturated the market is. So the only releases that came out recently that I actually cared about, that I was paying attention to, were Frostpunk 2 and Factorio's DLC. Like that's all I was paying attention to. So it's actually pretty funny to see was someone referred to something as as highly anticipated, and then I'm like, I never even heard of this. Oh man, am I getting out of touch, or is it just that there's so much stuff out there to pay attention to? Pearl Abyss revealed this information during an investor relations conference back in September current year, some of the details are only surfacing now thanks to a financial blogger who attended the event. According to the information provided, Pearl Abyss revealed that Sony's deal would prohibit them from releasing a game on Xbox for a certain period of time. Luckily for Xbox gamers, Pearl Abyss has said no to such an offer and decided to self-publish the game to maximize their profits. You see that shift up? Squeenix already learned this lesson. Now it's your turn. Stellar Blade could have been big, but you kind of aborted it by going PlayStation exclusive. I wonder if there's going to be any lessons learned there. Rumors about Crimson Desert being a piss nickel exclusive have circulated online over the last year or so, while some insiders claiming the game won't be on Xbox at launch. Pearl Abyss themselves unintentionally fueled some of these rumors by stating they're in discussions with partners over potential publishing deals, which many took as confirmation Sony will probably lock this one away from Microsoft's platforms, like they did with numerous other Asian games recently. Yeah, I hope it's worth it to these publishers. Yeah, again, by the time these games come to PC, they're going to have way less sales than they would have had otherwise, than they would have had they launched. Nice. Soyny compared Crimson Desert to Ghost of Tsushima. Well, those of you who actually thought Ghost of Tsushima was good, well, maybe you could get this too. And it's not going to be a piss nickel exclusive. Interestingly, the financial blogger noted that Sony praised Crimson Desert, liking its atmosphere and story to their samurai blockbuster Ghost of Tsushima, which sold 10 million copies. It's possible that this was an attempt to sway Pearl Abyss in their decision, but the Korean company ultimately stood firm. If only another Korean company had balls. This moment, we don't know the exact platforms of Crimson Desert. Even when Pearl Abyss revealed the recent gameplay just a month ago, they were only stating that it's coming to PC and consoles, refusing to mention which consoles specifically. Oh, maybe it'll be a launch title for Switch too. Who knows? So it could be spring current year +1. All right. Crimson Desert does not have a release date either, so that could be one of the reasons why Pearl Abyss and that didn't have specific platforms. Well, Shift Up announced platforms when Stellar Blade was still called Project Eve. Remember, it was going to launch on PC, Xbox, PS4, and PS5. And then all of a sudden, psych, PS5 only. Wait, where our customers go? Now, see, if Shift Up was smart, they would have at least negotiated to also release on the PS4. They probably could have gotten a couple million more sales if they weren't PS5 exclusive. Yeah, sometimes I wonder, like these companies must not know what they're doing. Yeah, I think in Shift Up's case, this is the first time they're releasing a game on console. So they probably, I mean, you got all these boomers that grew up with console and value them way too highly, don't realize that consoles are dying in current year. and they probably just got starstruck. Oh my God, my game's going to be on PlayStation. Oh man, we could get PlayStation backing us. Oh, this is so cool. And then you got companies like Pearl Abyss. It's not their first rodeo. They're like, yeah, whatever, Sony, fuck off. Yeah, we're not falling for this trap. We're not some fucking noobs. We know what they're doing. We know what we're doing. But a blogger who shared this info is stating that the game's targeting spring or Q2 of current year +1. Hopefully, we'll get more details when the release date on platforms, so all the speculation and rumors can finally go away. Well, at least we got confirmation of one good thing here. So, allegedly, this is an action adventure RPG set in a massive open world. Oh, yeah. I mean, that was obvious, I guess. With various biomes and secrets to uncover. Oh, it's Minecraft? A game utilizes dynamic and challenging combat, allowing players to climb big bosses, parry, dodge, kick, and wrestle enemies. We recommend you check out some gameplay footage. So it's going to be like a better version of Dragon's Dogma then. Or at least that's how they're pitching it. Whether it's going to be better or not remains to be seen. But that seems to be what they're going for. Okay.